Hey, all right, we're on. Tuesday night.
What's up, brother?
Doing all right, brother. I was almost trying to get my words together. I'm always used to saying, hey, good morning, welcome to Tacobout Live on a
Yep.
Taco Tuesday morning, but it's a Taco Tuesday evening,
Yep.
7 p.m. Late edition. We had some things going on today, but we're here on this Taco Tuesday welcoming you all to the show. So
Yeah.
but we got a lot to talk about, folks, right?
Yeah, we sure do, man. I was just gonna say about that intro music there. Makes me want to grab a sledgehammer and go pound some rocks, or you know.
Yeah, I found it to get the heart pumping.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean, to get going, especially because it's in the morning. You know, sometimes we're dragging. You know, that's why we usually have our tacos and our coffee. But we got our evening coffee going on.
Oh yeah.
Going on right
In our
now.
Talk About It Live
Yeah,
cups here.
talk about live tumblers and keep the coffee warm in the evening, and so keep the heart going. But folks, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight on Taco Tuesday with the evening edition, and with Frank and I. And again, we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. Of course, we're waiting for what's happening in Georgia right now, right, with Warnock and Herschel Walker,
Yeah.
and see how that goes. And there's a lot politically going on. But, you know, I know we talk a lot about the border crisis on this program, which is one of the biggest things that's happening in our nation. But unfortunately, the president doesn't think so, or I'm not going to call him president, but Biden doesn't think so. Apparently, he thinks there's more important things going on than the border invasion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was in Arizona, right?
Yeah. I guess he was over there visiting. Who knows what he was doing over there, but yeah, just one of those things, bro, where he's already at a border state, and so I guess he doesn't think it's important enough. But certainly to the residents, the people that live in this border regions, from from California down to Boca Chica, where the Rio Grande River exits into the Gulf of Mexico. It's impacting our lives. As a matter of fact, as I was coming in, Manny, I was out in San Antonio this morning.
Yep.
Part of the reason we've got this late show going on. But anyways, it was like a caravan of ambulances and law enforcement going east. And by now, the folks that live in this area know there was another horrific accident with the loss of life.
Yeah.
People died because of the border situation. It turned out to be another vehicle full of illegal aliens trying to flee from law enforcement. And I think there were 3 or 4 fatalities involved with that.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty big with the word I was getting, that it was, illegal aliens were involved in it as well. And, we don't know all the details yet, but we do know that there were fatalities there, and it backed up traffic for hours. But folks, this could all be avoided. It all could have been avoided if the borders would just close, if we would just shut down the borders, enforce the laws, enforce the law that we already have on the books. And I hate to say it, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but when Trump was in office, Frank, we didn't really go through all these things.
Not in this massive scale, man. I mean, not to this extent. There's always been, since we started, enacting and implementing, enforcing immigration laws. There's always been some lawlessness.
Right.
Criminals will always be amongst us, but certainly not to the extent here. And of course, one of the first questions the folks asked was, were there American citizens involved? We don't have all the details at this point.
Yeah.
But human life is human life, Manny.
Yeah.
And we have a moral obligation. There's a responsibility to, not just secure the border, safeguard the borders of our nation, but to preserve life.
Yes, to preserve life. You and I, we took an oath, for those who've been watching the show since its inception, and those who are brand new to it. Frank and I both served in the United States Border Patrol. I served 25 years. Frank served over 30 years in the Border Patrol, recently retired, and we took an oath of office. So did our agents, took the same oath. The agents that are serving today took the same oath to defend this country, right, against any enemy, foreign and domestic, against any enemy against the Constitution, right, foreign and domestic, but also to protect our borders and American way of life, the American way of life. And I think a lot of people get it confused, Frank, that the American exceptionalism is wrong, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there preaching that American exceptionalism is wrong, that we shouldn't have pride in our country. I grew up, my father brought us, my brother and I up with great pride in our nation and our country to defend it. We all served in the military. You served in the military. And folks, I believe with all my heart that this country is the greatest country in the world, and of course, I have ties to Israel as well, but United States, Frank, is the land of the free and home of the brave, right?
Yeah, and I totally agree, Manny. And so there's obviously some folks are going to say, well, maybe these accidents are going to serve as a deterrent, and people died, and maybe, the citizens of other countries will think twice before entering our country illegally, and it's not. It's not going to deter them.
It's not going to deter.
There's too much free stuff, bro. Too much free stuff. The governments of the world know that we have right now a very weak administration. Very weak, and actually, they are, being malfeasant. In not securing our country and preserving life.
And not only malfeasant, Frank, but they're complicit. They're complicit in all this.
Criminal.
Criminally complicit in all of this. This administration has basically approved of human sex trafficking, smuggling,
child trafficking,
you name it, folks. Fentanyl. They're all to blame. This whole administration is to blame for all of this mess, this whole invasion that is happening. And again, it's already the United States Border Patrol. I'm going to just let you into some little insights here. The majority of these drivers of these vehicles, I think a lot of people don't realize, aren't really the smugglers themselves. Right. The smuggling organizations hire guides. They pay guides to bring them over. With the illegal aliens, actually pay the guides, and then the money goes to the cartels and the smuggling organizations. Usually, most of the time they get over here, they have one of the illegal aliens in the group, or they hire, or they get some U.S. citizen to drive. But usually, they get somebody in the group, and the orders that they give them, or if Border Patrol comes, or DPS comes, or whoever comes, just run, right, drive, right, and try to get away from it. And then what ends up happening, a lot of them crash.
Somebody wants to hear some old school stories from when we were rookies. Well, I don't know, man.
I don't know, statutes of limitations. I'm joking.
Yeah, we're joking, but no, as I saw those vehicles, look, okay, did they break the law? Yeah. Can they be charged with 8 U.S.C. 1325 illegal entry? Yeah. But will they serve time for it? No. There's no deterrent. There's no consequences, and so that's why they keep coming. And this also has an impact. Not just obviously, it seems like some people died here, and so their families will have to deal with the fallout from that. But it also impacts the men and women in law enforcement, Manny. I mean, it does. Our troopers, Border Patrol, whoever else, a local sheriff's office. That was Kinney County. These people, they're already having to deal with so much stress, and they are. And I've spoken with Sheriff Brad Cole out of Kinney County about this specifically, man. This is impacting the mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual well-being of the men and women in law enforcement, bro. And so this is piling, insult upon injury, because they already, law enforcement already, you're having to deal obviously with lawlessness, with criminals, but also with interdicting, preserving life, saving life. Oftentimes with the first responders out there before emergency medical services can get there. So they have to, literally try to save lives. And so to come upon horrific scenes of, bodies torn apart and blood everywhere and stuff. And we both have seen that stuff, bro. But now to see it,
on this type of scale,
on
right?
this, with this frequency, man, weekly, daily, it will have an effect. And as chaplains with the Border Patrol, and as pastors, clergy, we know that this will accumulate, and it's called cumulative stress, cumulative trauma. It accumulates, and at some point or another, there's got to be a release. And so that can be a volatile explosion.
Exactly. And sad to say, it comes out at the most inopportune times as well. It's like a pressure cooker, right? It's like a pressure cooker. And those are some of the examples that I give. You and I both served as chaplains in the United States Border Patrol. We dealt with a lot of this stress. We dealt with a lot of this anger. And sometimes it's just hard for us to even wrap our mind around as agents, and law enforcement officers, it's sometimes hard to wrap our minds around this lawlessness,
Yeah.
and how people can treat other people and the things that we've seen and things that we've been through. So this cumulative stress, sad to say, Frank, not only does it start affecting their personal life, their spiritual life, their emotional, but it even goes home and affects
To the
their families,
relational
their
life.
relationship lives, right? And then the stress just keeps piling and piling and piling. Sad to say, suicide is a common
Substance
occurrence.
abuse,
Yeah, substance
self-medicating, drinking, et cetera. So we're going to talk at length about that. We've got a good friend out west, Gil Maza, with the Old Patrol HQ out there, and well, we're trying to get together to talk about this specifically. This is something that's near and dear to us. But for now, folks, I would just ask that, it's the job of law enforcement, EMS, firefighters to deal with this. This is what they get paid for. This is what they volunteer. Oftentimes, some of these rural firefighting departments are volunteer based.
Yep.
And so I would just ask that you pray for them, pray for their families as well, and pray for all the folks that were affected. There will be effects felt throughout. And so we just ask that you just lift up the men and women in our emergency medical services,
because
and
people,
first responders.
You're exactly right, Frank. And people respond differently. We even have a lot of young National Guard men and women here that have never seen that kind of stuff before.
Carnage.
Yeah, and it affects people in different ways, And so, but again, I'm not going to get into all the minutiae, but we're going to save it for our program next week when we have Gail on. We'll talk more at length about these things. But in regards back to the border and Biden's claim about not his claim, actually, it was his press secretary's claim that he's been to the border. I just want to play this clip real quick because I think it's become pretty popular, but if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to play it real quick. Let me get my audio here on.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre claims the president has been to the border. Listen to this.
He's been to the border, and since he took office...
When did he go to the border?
Since he took office, the President Biden has been taking action to fix our immigration system and secure our border.
Well, there's no record of it, Frank. that's the thing, right? There's no record of it. Apparently, they may think Uvalde is the border, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Manny, part of this is just the outright deception.
Yeah.
Outright, in your face, bald-faced lies. They don't even try to restrain themselves anymore. They don't even try to hide,
Their lies, right?
The fact that they're lying to the American people. And so it's kind of funny, man, because it's hard sometimes not to have that dark sense of humor at this President Biden, whatever. I mean, but look, it's criminal. It's a travesty. It's inhumane what they're doing to this guy. They should just let him just go on a beach somewhere and enjoy the waves and just relax the golden years of his life.
And apparently, he's talking about running again, right? He's gonna be like 81 years old by the time.
And we're not slamming. Look, folks, we're not slamming his age or anything like that. But obviously, the man is not well, man, and so he needs to be properly taken care of. Take him somewhere and just let him enjoy his life.
Yeah, that's the reason I brought up his age when I said he's gonna be like 81 years old. By the time I'm that age, God willing, I want to be relaxing somewhere. I don't want to be sitting in an office and making all kinds of decisions. Those are your years when you should be at home and resting.
Being used, bro. The man is being used. He's a puppet for the folks that are really running the show behind the scenes, and we know that part of that is certainly with darker intent for our country and for the people of this country and people of the world. They see lives as pawns, as just something useful, a useful means to their ends. And so, part of the reason, Manny, that I was in San Antonio, I had the opportunity to meet with a group of pastors up there. And it was part of the U.S. Pastors Council. And it was good to meet with other persons of faith. And what we were talking about was the need for the clergy to get involved in society. To get involved, to speak to the flock, to speak to those that they've been charged and trusted with teaching and leading, guiding, to give them knowledge. Yes, yes, the word, obviously, about the spiritual things, but also how to correctly apply the word of God to everyday life, and that encompasses, the political realm,
Yep.
Being in the educational system, the business world, entertainment, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
and it should. Clergy should, rabbis and pastors, and should be involved in the political arena as far as their influence. When this country first began, Frank, we've talked about it at length. The clergy was very much involved. Matter of fact, candidates would not even seek office without first seeking clerical endorsement.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that's just the way it was. And now, back then, they sought their endorsement. Now it's a liability if you're involved with anybody, right? That's religious, And as far, conservatively anyway, conservatively speaking, there's the liberal side of religion here in the United States now that endorses all these candidates, and they eat it up, and others that are preaching hate for America. And of course, Obama's pastor, was very, very famous in condemning America and even speaking and cursing America and, things like that. And that's the man he sat under. But yet, you get somebody who accepts an endorsement from a conservative Christian pastor, conservative, rabbi or whatever, and next thing you know, man, everything breaks loose and everything hits the fan, and they're racist and they're homophobic and they hate speech and whatnot. But back in the early days of America, Frank, clergy was very, very much involved. And we've always tried to encourage clergy here to go to the city council meetings, get involved and know what's happening, and from the pulpit, preach righteousness to the community.
Yeah, and there is a role for that information to be put out. We spoke about several things, the Johnson Amendment, et cetera, and several different things. But one of the things that did come up to, reiterate what you said there, Manny, was about the founding of our nation, and that our founding fathers and the framers of the Constitution were people of faith.
Yes.
And so we shouldn't we should not allow ourselves as children of light to be pushed off to the sides. It is our job to go into the places of darkness. It's beyond a job. It's about our calling. It's about our duty and our sacrifice and service to God. Is to be light in the darkness, is to take the truth and proclaim it.
Yes.
And of course, we will be hated for that. We will be reviled and even persecuted for it. I told this, this group about that incident, Manny, when you and I went, along with the other chaplains, we went out to Oklahoma City for some training at that place. Remember?
Yeah,
At the Character Institute.
Yeah.
And there were a group of Chinese
Believers
there.
Yeah.
And so we're speaking, and one of the questions that was asked to them is, when you think about Americans, when you think about the American church, what do you pray for this body, for this church? And they pray for persecution.
Yep, persecution.
And I guess they must have seen that we're all like persecution. Yeah. And so because it's in the lean times, the hard times, in persecution, in the storms of life, that you turn to the rock of our salvation, that you turn to the only one that can save you, which is the eternal God.
Yes.
And it's He who shed His blood upon the cross. And so, anyways, I had the opportunity to tell that story because one of the things that came up, and this was a call for pastors to get involved, was, we've grown complacent. America is blessed, and praise God that we are blessed.
But we're fat. Yeah.
And that's what happens when we get complacent, man. And unfortunately, look, folks, it's when you're complacent, you're not on your toes, you're not alert, you're sleepy, lazy.
Yeah.
And that's why the enemy has gained so much of a foothold in our country, man. Because to a certain extent, the watchmen, the people at the city walls, spiritually speaking, have,
what happens,
fallen asleep.
Exactly right, Frank. What happens is when you get complacent, compromise comes in, right? I mean, I've always told this one illustration that, when the Great Wall of China was built, to stop invaders. After it was built, believe it or not, it was invaded over 100 and some times. And the reason why was because nobody was climbing over the wall. The reason it was invaded over 100 times after it was built was because of weak defenders, compromised, accepting bribes and whatnot. And this, the reason I bring that up is because here in the United States as well, the body of Messiah is basically compromised.
Yeah.
And, and we see it. We see it today. And so there's this kind of a segue into what I want to talk about as well, is that if you don't believe that the battle between good and evil is taking place in this nation, look at our schools and look what's happening in our schools and look how they're trying to steal our children and indoctrinate our children. Believe it or not, Frank, I'm going to play this video here shortly, but believe it or not, in Chesapeake, Virginia right now, the Satanic Temple of the United States has joined with the Chesapeake, Virginia school system, and they're promoting an after-school Satan club.
An after-school Satan club, man.
After-school Satan club, right? And you don't believe me? I'm gonna play the video here real quick, and then.
Well, unfortunately, I do believe you now, bro. I mean, the church, Manny, has allowed for the educational system to usurp, the role of parents. And when I say, well, what does the church have to be with parents? Because it's at the church. The church is supposed to reflect the relationship between Christ and his church. A marriage, family is a reflection of God's design and God's government, God's kingdom. And so it has that image as created, by God, has been allowed to corrode, to be corrupted, to be desecrated. And that is why the enemy has made so many inroads into all these institutions, per se, that have direct impact and control of our children, their lives, their hearts, their minds. And so, so unfortunately, I do believe you, man. So let's see what old
Tucker Carlson has to say real quick on this. Let me just cue it up.
A spiritual war we're watching. Here's this news story. The Illinois Elementary School is offering an after-school Satan club. The local school district is defending the Satan club. It's sponsored by the Satanic Temple of the United States. The club claims it will help kids learn benevolence and empathy, as well as, quote, personal sovereignty. We're going to the source on this story. Lucienne Graves is with the Satanic Temple and joins us tonight. Mr. Graves, thanks so much for coming on. So I have to ask, are parents complaining that there's an after-school Satan club at their children's school?
Some are, but they don't have to send their children to the program. It's available for parents who do want to send their children to the program, and it's there as an alternative to religious clubs that are made to proselytize to children. Ours doesn't include items of religious opinion. It doesn't include indoctrination. It just has a self-directed learning program with trained educators there to help guide the children through different activities and projects that they want to engage in.
Where are the Satan club's trained educators trained? Is there a Satan School of Theology?
No, we've got educators who have volunteered with us. We vet them. We do the criminal background checks that aren't required of after-school clubs.
Okay, real quick. He goes on. He talks about that. There's no indoctrination. But then he goes on to say that the reason they're doing this, Frank, is to combat a Christian indoctrination of children, right? And so, but even worse, sadder, Frank, is that the Chesapeake, Virginia school system is defending this program. And then he goes on to, again, to reiterate that it's not about indoctrination. It's not any religious indoctrination or anything like that. However, this is a religion, right? It is a religion. And they have a flyer out there promoting this program. And this is what it has on the flyer. Satan loves me, this I know, for my inbox tells me so.
Wow.
Right? You don't think that that's indoctrination?
It sure is, man. I mean, look, I'm not surprised that they would lie either, bro. And so bald-faced in your face, they will lie. They will say, opposite of what their intent is. So if he says, we don't want to indoctrinate, they want to indoctrinate. We don't want to harm, they want to harm. We don't want control of your kids. They want control of your kids. And so, Satan is the father of lies. And he has also his ministers as well.
Yes.
And those that just as we in the kingdom call ourselves children of light, well, they themselves there's those that call themselves, children of Satan, you know. And so, look, folks, this battle has raged since the beginning, but you know, we should be involved. There's a specific reason and purpose, Manny, for God establishing this country, for you know, and part of it was for the gospel to go forth into the world.
Yes.
That was part of the reason. But what we're seeing in our society is an all-out attack, all-out war on our children, on the family.
On the family, all right.
Because the family is not only, you know, a reflection of God's kingdom and the way that that the Lord interacts with His body, with the church, but it's also you know, important to the life of a society, and it is what holds together a society, the families. And so,
And people can deny it all they want, Fred. They can deny it all they want here in the United States, but this country was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles, you know, straight from the scriptures. They looked at the Ten Commandments. They looked at the law of Moses. They even looked at Joshua, you know, and how it established, and then the things that the Lord Himself, Messiah, called us as believers to do, right? To take care of the widows, to take care of the orphans and the poor, and not to mock them, and you know, but also He goes on to say, you reap what you sow, right? And so, and I'm referring again back to the compromising of the body, in that what's being accepted now as okay, that it's okay. You know, one of the things that is happening as well in our country is not only is a family being attacked, but our religious liberties are being attacked as well. And regardless if you're, you know, Christian or a Jew, you know, and you shouldn't be asleep, especially if you're a Christian or a Jew, right? Because or religious anyway, you know. But our religious freedoms are in fact being attacked. There's a woman in Colorado right now, and who is actually the Supreme Court of the United States is about to hear her case regarding her religious freedoms, right? And in that her name is Lori Smith, and she's a committed Christian who designs websites, and is challenging the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act by wanting to put on her website that she only wants to serve conservative religious people, right? She doesn't want to make designs for a promoting homosexual lifestyle, anything like that. She just wants to place those words on her website, and now it's going all the way to the Supreme Court because apparently the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act prevents her from informing her clients about her moral beliefs and religious beliefs.
yeah, so here we go again with more government infringement on our rights, bro. So look, other people can tell you what to believe, but yet you can't stand up for your own beliefs.
Yeah,
you know,
which the Constitution allows, right? The Constitution allows for that.
Yeah, and as you know, as we've been talking here, I was thinking one of the names that was brought up earlier today, Noah Webster.
Yeah,
you know, who was one of the leading, you know, figures in American history. You know, was a man of faith. Was a man of faith, and so there's a lot of this warfare going on, Manny, and that's why believers have to be involved. Look, a lot of folks sit out the elections. They sit out the political process. They sit out being involved, you know, PTA even, and that's not, you know, necessarily totally political, although there will always be elements of politics per se. But it's not, you know, but you know what I'm saying? People don't want to get involved. And when those that are salt and light don't get involved, then darkness creeps in. Yeah. And darkness wants to overwhelm. And so here we have a brave person that's standing up for her beliefs. And look, I would say that those ideologues are certainly not shy, bashful, afraid, hesitant, Manny, about trying to impose their beliefs on us. Yeah. You know, but they're doing it a different way. Look, you know, that the Satanist was talking about not proselytizing, which means, you know, not trying to convert people. and so, you know, the way I've always understood it and enacted that, man, is you speak with folks. Yep. and you present the truth to them, and you know that they have a choice. And they can either accept the truth or deny, turn back, and in Spanish, rechazar, you know, to just not accept the truth. Okay, but this is different with what they're doing, because they are trying to impose their will on our children.
Right.
on us, on our families, and not just impose their will, but also restrict us of our freedoms.
Right.
And restriction of freedom, Manny, restriction of liberty, not being free, not being alive and able to live your life out free of government encroachment is a form of death in and of itself.
It is. It is. And the sad thing is, Frank. I mean, the scripture that says, right, the Messiah came to set us free, right? And for freedom, he came to set us free is exactly what it says. And with the Spirit of the Lord, there is liberty, there is freedom, right? And so our founding fathers believed in this. They and they lived it and they fought for it. Many of them, they gave up their inheritances, they gave up their land, they gave up their monies, they gave up their very lives, right? The same with the disciples of Messiah, right? The Bible describes them as men who turned the world upside down, right? 13 men.
They're turning the world upside
down.
down.
The world upside down. And we have the power. Abraham Lincoln said that this government should be a government for the people, by the people, right? Giving the people that power to basically hold our leaders accountable, right? But yet, people are giving up their liberties, Frank, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of false security. And it's a sad thing to see. It's kind of like that the tale, right, of the I forgot the silver handcuffs, right, or the
shackles.
Yeah, the silver shackles, right, and the padded shackles that people don't really know, the golden handcuffs, and that they really don't know that they're in handcuffs because they're made of gold, right, and they're comfortable, but yet they're still imprisoned, right, simply because you have golden handcuffs doesn't mean that you're not a slave, and it's sad to say because I remember the old adage. Growing up, there was always these signs. You always went into stores, right? You went to these old mom and pop shops and whatnot, and always said, "We reserve the right to refuse business to anyone," right? Because it was their business. They built it, blood, sweat, and tears, with their own, their own hands, their own monies, and we reserve the right to refuse business to everybody. But federal law used to protect that, and so businesses should have the right to decline or refuse their services to anyone. There may be consequences to that. Right?
They could lose business or whatever.
But that's the beautiful thing about being in America and being an American. You have the right to succeed or fail, right? I mean, that's just the other freedom to do these things, right? But
yesterday, bro, I was in Divine, Texas, and I was there for a GI Forum event. It was an oratorical contest on the Constitution.
Wow.
And so there were 6 students, high schoolers, who were participating, competing for scholarships from the GI Forum. And the topic of their speech was the Constitution, man. And it was very interesting. I loved it. I was a judge, and I enjoyed seeing our young people getting involved and doing the research. And as I was listening to them, bro, there were some, like as in anything else, any competition, whatever, there's definitely going to be a clear, winner or close, races. And there's going to be some that aren't just there all the way. So anyways, but I was thinking, even the one that, didn't do as well as the others, probably knew more than a lot of average Americans, bro. I was just thinking, hey, look, I give you kudos, man, thumbs up, because even just this amount of time that you spent researching for this event probably put you head and shoulders above so many other people, bro, that just, the Constitution, what's that?
I mean, brother, you talked to naturalized citizens, right, that had to,
go through civics.
Go through civics class and had to study about the Constitution and the branches of government. And you go ask the average citizen nowadays, what are the 3 branches of government? They can't even tell you, right? And or what what is the preamble? What is the Bill of Rights? Things like this. What are the Federalist Papers? None of that. Some can't even find Earth on a map, right? It's sad, brother.
Map. Yeah, that reminds me of. I love watching these this college students do like Liberty Hangout and some of these other folks that do, man on the street type of interviews. And just sitting there, interviewing people, and it's one of those tragic comedy kind of things, just like unbelievable, bro. I mean, you're asking them questions, who do we fight to get our freedom from? And people are like, what, Martians or something,
I know, right?
And I'm just like, wow, man, if it weren't so tragic, it'd be funny, man. But but it was so the students last night, man, it was great. It was awesome to listen to them. One person in particular, a young lady, man, she went on the Second Amendment.
Wow.
And really spoke about its purpose, and I was like, yeah, that's great. And she was the youngest of all those folks, and of all the students that participated. So, anyways, that was a very interesting. It was cool that the GI Forum is doing that. And I certainly think that that's something that maybe not through the GI Forum or VFW or other, but that just citizens, bro. I mean,
or the congregations, man.
Congregations.
Have some civics classes or something, right? Teach on the Constitution.
And that's a beautiful, wonderful way to do that. Is look, hey, let's get you a scholarship or something. Let's you all thinking about going to college or whatever. Let's take some active interest and get involved in the life of our society. Sponsor a competition.
Yeah.
That can be centered around civics.
Wow, those are some good ideas. Like I got some stuff running in my head as a congregational leader here right now about like having young people write essays and judging upon them on the
Yes.
Constitution, on the American history, things like that, Texas history.
Yeah.
And offering small scholarships. It doesn't have to be big. Every time we think of scholarships, we think of people paying for everybody's tuition. No,
$20,
$20,
$50,
$100. Sometimes maybe even $500, depending on what your congregation can afford, to help our young people study. Because when I went through school, way back when, I'm not going to tell you when, but way back when I went through school, we had to read the Constitution.
Yeah.
We had to say that we said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. We studied the Constitution. We studied the Bill of Rights. We were tested on these things. And now, Frank, there's a teacher out there. I was going to play the video. I don't have it queued up or anything like that. But there's a teacher right now who refuses to teach proper
English.
grammar.
Because
That's racist. She says it's racist.
Yes, doesn't want to teach English because she says it's racist.
Yep.
So
And now apparently shark hunting is racist.
Shark hunting?
Yeah, I was just watching it just a little bit ago on Fox News. They were reporting that shark hunting or the documentaries on sharks, like Shark Week, is racist because there's too many white people on the. I'm going to tell you, if they want to go at it, then fine. Being a Latino, I'm not going after sharks. If you see me out there in the ocean, around sharks, call for help because I fell off a boat or something.
you know what, bro? I mean, you follow that logic, Manny, to its well, not I was going to say logic to its
That type of logic.
yeah, to its end. Yeah. I'm struggling for the words here because look, you follow that kind of logic. It's only a matter of time, bro, before somebody says, in that room, in that neighborhood, in that city, that state, that country, whatever, there are more people of a certain color or background. There's more of them than there are of us, and yet they're racist. So in other words, the air that they're breathing, because they're racist, they're taking it away from us.
Yeah.
And so this is the way that these people think. And so, I have to qualify that because.
But you already got people out there, Frank, saying that people like us don't deserve to live.
Yeah.
And it's a sad reality.
Well, because we're conservative. Because we're people of faith. And so that's why it's important to get involved. Look, there was a great uproar. And I know, like, for instance, Chip Roy and several other of our elected officials are fighting against the marriage equality.
Yes.
Because the Senate just voted on it. So the House, it was proposed in the House, it went up, it made its way to the Senate. Now it goes back to the House for reconciliation and all that, the final touches on it. And that's where they were trying to insert amendments, Manny, to protect religious rights, religious liberties, because just think about it, folks, for a second, man. God ordained marriage, and he said it's a male and a female. And so what the Marriage Equality Act did was say marriage can be anything, in any form, and so, but God is very specific about it. So by enacting this law, they say that anybody who contradicts that,
Or opposes,
who opposes it, is violating this law, violating the law.
Right.
And so usually in our society, at least for the most part, most law violations have consequences.
Yep.
So the logical conclusion to that, Manny, is that people of faith who do not agree with this new definition of marriage could become, in a sense, criminals.
Yeah. And who knows if they don't start trying to shut down religious organizations. The Respect for Marriage Act apparently is a bipartisan bill that intends to require federal government to recognize all marriages, right? It's not really gender specific per se, but it's not even like human specific. And I say that some people think, you think I'm joking, but the reality is there are people who want to marry outside the human race, and so it's a sad thing to say, but that's a reality. But it's including same-sex marriage and that are legal in the state where they took place is for the federal government to recognize all marriages, no matter where they took place, right? But Chip Roy, and I love Chip Roy. Hopefully we get him on the program here soon. I sent out an email. Hopefully
Hey,
they're
Chip,
watching.
please
And,
come on board, man.
come on board, brother. But he offered an amendment that would prohibit the federal government from retaliating against anyone or any organization, religious or secular, that opposes same-sex marriage based on the religious or moral grounds, right? If I'm not in favor of same-sex marriage, right? I'm not in favor of same-sex unions because of my moral and religious beliefs. But the House Rules Committee, Democrats refused his amendment to advance it to the House floor. Sad to say, the representative that we have here, Tony Gonzalez, if you voted for him, this is what you got, folks.
He voted for it. He was the only Texan to vote for it.
Yep, the only Texas Republican to vote for it. And so, but reporting this Senate bill, the Democrats said, well, it includes language that protects religious liberty, but they say that the religious organization shall not be required to provide services to a marriage, but it has nothing about retaliation. Chip Roy was trying to insert an amendment that says nobody should be able to retaliate. No government, state or government or federal government should be able to retaliate against religious organizations or conservative organizations. Any organization that opposes same-sex marriage. You don't have to be religious. There are people who are not confessed believers. They oppose same-sex marriage, right?
Yeah.
They oppose these things because of their moral beliefs. But the Democrats shot it down.
Yeah, and so, look, I know speaking with folks, as you think about these things and you look at this continuance, Manny, you look at this courses of action and, it's driving, they're driving these forward. And so as you look at these different activities, these different, pushes, initiatives, agenda items, whatever you want to call them, courses of action, you got to look down the road to what is it that they want to accomplish. And what are they willing to do based on history, for one, Manny, looking at what tyrants, what oppressors have done to people who want to be free. And so part of the lessons there have to come from a historical context, but also, just recognizing, just thinking about it, in the here and now, what will this lead to? And I remember thinking, before the elections, they're coming after every aspect of our society,
right?
And there's certainly part of that is dismantling, breaking apart the way we elect our leaders, because it's our leaders that enact these laws.
Yeah.
And they're just off the wall crazy stuff. Some of them, bro. There's already a Democrat member of the legislature here, representative out of the Round Rock area, that has already proposed an abortion, bill here, and so he's already proposing that. And what he's saying, hey, other conservative states have allowed abortion. So look, folks, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, but what that meant was that the fight was going to come back out to the field. It was going to come out to the states. And so today I heard a figure, 23 million Christians, believers, persons of faith, did not vote in the 2020 election.
And that oh my gosh, and that's terrible. That's terrible. The same can be said for the Jewish community as well.
So they didn't vote. They didn't vote, bro. So what they did is they allowed their would-be oppressors to get into office, bro.
And it's a shame. It's a shame because you talk about Round Rock. Round Rock is still fighting a fight about critical race theory getting into the schools and all kinds of other stuff getting into the schools. But if you're a believer, look, I believe with all my heart the Messiah is returning. Right? I believe he could return tomorrow if he wants. So tonight, after this program is over, right, he could return. But what happens, Frank, is a lot of believers, because we're looking forward to the return of the Messiah. What ends up happening is a lot of believers end up developing what's called escapism, right? They just back away from everything. right? From any involvement politically, in this, any civic involvement whatsoever, right? And leave society to be condemned. Messiah did not call us to leave society to be condemned. He said, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have eternal life." And then He goes on to say, right later on, He goes on to say to go out to every nation and immerse them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? So He called us to do these things. And so when people develop an escapism, they take their hands off anything that we could be involved in, because then what ends up happening is we end up just loving each other as believers. And Messiah even said, where's the challenge in that, right? Yeah. Where's the challenge in loving those who only love you back? Yeah. The gospel does not, you believe, I don't have to preach the gospel to you, right? But my whole point is that when we leave society alone without the influence of light, without the preaching of light, without the gospel, people die without Messiah. They die without the Lord. Societies suffer. Government suffers. Our children suffer. There is a domino effect in this. Yep. The influence of the believer. We look at like the stories in the scriptures, right? We look at Joseph, right? Look at Potiphar's house, right? He was there. Blessed. Potiphar was blessed because of Joseph, right? But when the body starts accepting things that are outside of Scripture, outside of the Bible tells us, right? Ralph Scholl, the Apostle Paul, tells us, "Do not go beyond what is written." But when people start accepting ideologies, even theologies outside the Scriptures and embrace them, things go wrong. Like for instance, look at this headline. I'm going to put it up here real quick. Yeah. This headline, right? This is House Democrats block religious liberty amendment to same-sex marriage bill. But what got me, Frank, is the picture above it. Love wins. Yeah. Right? People would say, "Oh man, awesome! Love wins. Love wins." The problem I see in that sign and that idea is that love has become God. And the reason I say that is the Bible tells us that God is love, but love isn't God. When we start worshiping love or elevating love above God or make love to be a God, then what ends up happening is like with everything else, it becomes corrupt. And so love becomes determined by man, what kind of love should be. And the reality, Frank, is that, and I just want to touch upon this here real quick, is that God has actually commanded us to love Him, right, above anything else. Matter of fact, it's in the greatest commandment, right? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And then He goes on to say, here is the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. God has actually commanded us. And how do I know this is a commandment? Well, remember Messiah was asked Himself, what is the greatest commandment? What is the greatest commandment? He says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, right? So it is a commandment. So why does God command us to love Him? Well, because our love is corrupt. Our love is corrupt. And if we don't but God's love is pure, right? You hear it all the time, right? Here in the world, the worldly ideas. Oh, follow your heart, follow your heart. Oh, you never go wrong if you follow your heart, brother.
The heart is deceitful.
The heart is deceitful. Matter of fact, the scriptures say it is wickedly sick, right? And is desperate, right? But so without God's love, Frank, things like this happen because that's the argument, isn't it? Yeah. Love wins.
Yeah, and look, as we're talking about this, some folks will say, "Man, you guys went off on this religious tangent." Look, this is who we are. It's a part of who we are, and but it's also intended, Manny, for us, and I say us believers, to be involved in this life, in the affairs of this life, to be involved in our communities, our neighborhoods, because it's kind of along this line of thought. If you have the antidote to a poison, why should we withhold that antidote? Why should we withhold the cure? And so, we have to be involved, and it doesn't necessarily mean, yes, this is your synagogue here, Manny. This is your flock here. But there's other folks out there as well that need ministering, and so I've always said the houses of worship are places to train the ministers to go out and to the highways and the byways and go find people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a ministry. It's just the act of ministering to others and bringing the truth to others. And, a lot of what was going on in our society here, man, I agree, it's been said, it's because of the absence of God in people's lives. And so, a lot of what's happening here, for instance, the deaths that happened on the highway today, well, part of it is, the lawlessness, law breaking, but it's also driven by greed. It's also been driven by, this false aspirations, false hope that's been given to people that stems from deceit, from lies. And so, this is what happens, man, in a society that when they turn their back on God, man. And, somebody might say, well, that's very simplistic. Well, look, it's the truth.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, man. And so, yeah.
Look, bad things are going to happen in this world. That there's no two ways about it. There's bad things are going to happen, but a lot of these things. This is why laws are very important. This is why laws are put in place. Unjust laws, of course. Unjust laws are no law. It's no law at all, right? But there are laws put in place, to help protect us as citizens.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's the unseen, the laws of physics and stuff like that, where you can see physical, aspects to that. But what I'm just saying is, gravity we don't see, we see the effects of it and stuff like that, But when there's lawlessness in a community, man, definitely we see the effects of that.
See the effects of it.
And so there's a lot of issues that are affecting our communities tonight. Another thing that came up, there was a hearing here, and I don't want to veer off too much, but there was a gathering of citizens here to listen to plans for a second bridge, second port of entry here in Del Rio. And so see that's an aspect there, Manny, where people can get involved. Yeah. Just go listen, go give your input, go find out. This taxes will be used for that if it does, come to fruition here.
Yeah.
And so we all have
nothing's for free,
interest.
folks.
Nothing's for free, and we all have an interest. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be in the political realm for people to get involved, or in the spiritual realm. There are many different areas of our society that need people to get involved. And one of the things that's coming up here at the beginning of the year, all these newly elected folks will get sworn in. And so here in Valverde County, we're going to have a new county clerk. Teresa Esther Chapoy was elected. They're doing the research. She may actually be the first Republican county clerk in the history of Valverde County.
Wow.
So they're doing the
Actually,
research.
that wouldn't be too surprising, to tell you the truth.
They're doing the research on that and see, but, that's just an interesting note there. But the thing about it is that, she got involved and she won her election. And so people are encouraging her and wishing her the best. And so certainly we want to lift up Esther in prayer. Maybe we can get in here at some point or another just to talk a little bit about that. That would be interesting. But, there's a lot of different ways for people to get involved. And what I was saying is these folks are going to get sworn in at the beginning of the year, Manny, and there's already what appears to be a battle brewing in our state legislature.
Wow.
And so one of the comments that I heard, and I wouldn't exactly know who the sources, who the persons that said this were, but it was a legislator who said that the role of the Republican Party is not to be concerned with the activities of the legislators. Just let them legislate. But see, and so my comment to that was, well, of course, they just want your help to get them elected. But once they get into office, they want to do whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
And it doesn't necessarily line up with the will of the grassroots that helped get them elected.
And if you're not paying attention to these elections, I mean, look at the millions and millions of dollars that the Democrats are spending on Warnock right now against Herschel Walker.
There's a reason they want him in power.
There's a reason that they want him in power. It's not to do any justice for the American people. It's to promote their own agenda. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Republican Party and conservatives have their own agenda as well. Yeah. But the Democratic Party's agenda is completely against the American way, and it's and even against life itself. I mean, we see it right before our eyes about what the Democratic left is promoting.
Yeah, all you have to do is look at their platform. Compared to the Republican platform, that's part of it. But also look at their actions and the outcomes of their activities and the outcomes of their decisions, Manny. And a lot of it has to do with making money, getting rich, getting that influence. And so there's going to be a battle brewing. And what the call's already going out. Folks have to get involved. Folks have to contact their legislators, for one. But the other thing is, if possible, make your way to Austin during the legislative sessions. Find out what is going on in the different committees and what bills are being, making their way through the channels, and get involved. And part of that is also going to Austin, testifying when possible, but at least, going and visiting with your legislators as well, letting them know that the people are going to hold them accountable.
Yep. Yeah, and folks, and it's a fight. It's a battle. I mean, the battle that we're in. Like we're a small podcast. I mean, we get a few thousand visits here and there, but like YouTube, like they're removing our videos one at a time. Facebook sometimes blocks us. And it's insane. It's amazing what is happening. And we're just a small time podcast here on the border. But apparently our words are having some type of effect that they don't want people to hear. But you look at like how the left is attacking Donald Trump when he announces his candidacy to run again. They're going after him for telling the truth, and now they're going after one of their own that was one of their own for such a long time, Elon Musk. He went and bought Twitter. Now he wants to give everybody freedom to say. He basically wants to give freedom of the press back to the people, and now he's being
Freedom of
attacked.
speech, yeah.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's that definitely is going on, man. And I got a notice today on my email, one of my emails that basically said they're going to shut down one of my Facebook pages. So I got to be careful. I'm actually surprised that my Border Patriot page has stayed up this long, bro. But I am surprised about that, but not surprised that they would eventually try to shut it down. So,
But my thing is, Frank, there should be more people out there willing to get shut down. I mean,
there should be a lot of voices.
Yeah, there should be a lot of voices.
A lot of voices, man. Like this woman out in Colorado you spoke about, Manny. She's taking a stand, man.
Yeah.
She's taking a stand. Look, this season, we're celebrating the advent of Messiah, of Jesus, of the Christ, and so what people tend to forget, Manny, is that his birth, miraculous, merciful, graceful to humanity, also came with conflict, and it came with division, and it led to death because of all the children in Bethlehem, bro. That in Israel that were because the king wanted to find that little child. So everybody under 2 years of age was slaughtered, bro. And so the message, the gospel is not without conflict, and sometimes it's not without pain.
Here's the thing. I think people don't realize. I mean, freedom has a cost. Freedom costs, and sometimes it costs life. The reality is, what the Greek word is for witness is martyr. That's the Greek word for witness. In the scriptures, when you look in the Brit Hadashah, the New Covenant, as we are called to be witnesses, the Greek word for that is martyr. And Messiah even himself said that if you love your life, you will lose it, right? And then he goes on to say that we must love him above all, that we also must, that a good soldier of Messiah will face persecution. There's just no, but I'm not going to go into different levels of persecution. But the reality is, folks, to be willing to stand up for what is right. My father always used to tell me, Frank, sometimes when you stand up for what is right, sometimes you stand by yourself. Yeah. But as a believer, we have Messiah. We have his Holy Spirit. We have the Lord himself, as his word says, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I believe in his word. I remember when I read the scriptures, one of the ones that amazes me, of course, is Rav Shaul, right? When they went to him, and the Apostle Paul, when they went to him and told him, you need to quit preaching Messiah, or we're going to put you in prison. He's like, well, to live is Messiah. And he says, well, then we're going to persecute, we're going to execute you. Well, to die is gain. Whoa, what are you going to do? So, but folks, we have a duty, and we have a calling. If you're a believer, a professed believer, even as an American citizen, if you're a believer or not, you're watching this program and you say, well, Manny, I don't believe in the Lord. That's entirely up to you. But as an American citizen, this country is worth defending. Yep. The Abraham Lincoln said that the ones who would destroy America is not going to be from without, but from within. And we're seeing that happen right before our very eyes today. As an American citizen, as a Texas citizen, stand up for what is right, make your voice heard, and do the right thing.
Yeah, and I think of that scripture says, as you run the race, run the race, set aside the sin that so easily, encumbers you, burdens you down, but also talks about surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, man. And so, wherever we're at in life, wherever we are at here, in this society, in this present life, we're not alone, Manny, but God has a calling for us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, arenas and, stadium filled with people. It just has to do about just going out and serving others, being positive, being salt and light in the society.
Yeah.
And Manny, that's gonna entail fearlessness to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It entails courage. It requires you to be bold, to be courageous, to ask the Lord to strengthen your heart and to give wings to your faith.
Yeah.
But be bold and courageous, because God is with you.
Yep. Guys, I mean, when I was in the military, I mean, during Desert Storm, I wanted to go to battle, man. I mean, you trained for it, right? I mean, and it's instilled in you as an American, right? And because we were going to go defend freedom, and I believed.
Hoorah about it.
Yeah, hoorah, man! I believed in it so much, and the same goes with the gospel, man. I believe in it so much that I'm willing to give my life for it because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, and I want to be able to leave a legacy for my children, and my children's children, God willing. But the reality, folks, is today is the day. Today is the day to proclaim the good news of Messiah. He is coming back. For many Christians throughout the world, they're going to be celebrating His Advent. For us, we're celebrating Hanukkah, which is, we believe, the time when Yeshua was conceived by the Holy Spirit. And so, but either way, Messiah came to this earth. He came to give us freedom, and He's going to return. And so, folks, we have a duty as American citizens as well to defend this nation.
Yep.
It's a great nation. It's worth saving, and it's worth fighting for. And please, make your voices heard.
Yep. Hey, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's a little bit of a special edition. We just didn't want to let the Tuesdays. We have been busy with all kinds of stuff, but we wanted to kind of stay somewhat on schedule. So hey, Tuesday, there's an edition here, but we'll be talking about other situations, other issues affecting our communities. And we appreciate all the folks that have been watching here, that have been here with us tonight. Thanks for all the comments. We know that you're taking time out of your schedule to spend it here with us, and so we're grateful for that. And as we go forward towards the end of the year here, Manny, it's a holiday season. It is, but there are those that are less fortunate than us, and so let's just demonstrate that kindness and that love to folks. And remember that sometimes we've entertained angels unaware, man. Yes. So we never know, who we're gonna walk across in our path here. But thanks for joining us. God bless you all.
Thanks for joining us. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless Texas.